Hi, my name is Helen Welton. Welcome to Stories from the Art Room. This is part 2 of the Power in Family Names. In part 1, I shared with you my desire to change my surname and why. Today I'm giving a short overview of when surnames were introduced and why, so let's get started. We all know a person's name has never been a surefire way to know just who they are. And aside from fraudsters and spies, a person can call themselves whatever they like, so long as they register it. And it's by deed poll in Britain. But I don't think you can alter the name on your birth certificate. Today, fingerprints and eye scans are used to protect and verify our identity, especially when it comes to money. But before 1066 in England, people did not have hereditary surnames. They were just known by a personal name or nickname. Then in 1086, an Anglo-Saxon chronicler grumbles about the shamelessly minute details right down to the last animal skin being recorded in a countrywide inventory of people's possessions by the order of the Norman conqueror king William in what is now known as the Domesday Book. This survey meant that anyone with anything of worth that the king could tax had to come up with a surname fast. And so physical attributes like short William or where you're from, so it's that Thomas from Sutton, or trades like Henry the Fletcher, and almost every other object known to mankind was used for a surname. It's worth noting that in those times about 10% of the population of Britain were slaves, and I suppose ordinary people, peasants, if they were accounted for at all, it was by their mark, probably a cross. In England alone, there are around 45,000 different surnames, each with a history behind it, and this is how we recognise our ancestors. But what if a certain aspect of our identity is not named? While at art school, I saw a documentary in which people in a remote area of the Amazon watched a film for the first time and afterward were asked to comment on what they'd seen. The local people said, "Nice chickens." In the documentary, the anthropologists presenting this film said they had to re-watch it. There was a lot going on, but the chickens were only on screen for a few seconds. So it was concluded that if you show people events and objects for which they have no words, then those people will literally not see those things. Here's another thought. Jamie Oliver was inspired to cook Italian food by his mentor, Gennaro Contaldo. And I remember Gennaro telling a story about the goats his family kept when he was a boy. He'd taken one of the kids to have as a pet and gave it a name. And when Gennaro's father found out, he was very angry, saying, "You don't give a name to a creature that you're going to eat." Then I think his dad killed the kid to teach Gennaro a lesson. A name then generates human connection, so no wonder the Nazis dispensed with names and instead tattooed numbers on the arms of concentration camp inmates. Having said that, I think we are heading to a position where we are likely to end up being labelled with a barcode, and probably it's already happening on the internet. I mentioned in part 1 of my power of naming that I attended an adult educational course in matriarchal studies presented by Beryl Wyatt in 1994, and she proposed that it's possible early peoples identified themselves with their mother's clan name. If we do begin to use our genetic code as a proof of identity, then I would have thought we will need to refer to our mother's bloodline, our dam line, as they say in horse breeding. We inherit two sets of genes from our mother. One coding is DNA unique to her, and the other is her mitochondrial DNA. The mitochondria in our cells is often described as its powerhouse because it converts energy from food. Mitochondrial DNA was the first significant part of the human genome to be discovered in the 1960s, and our genome was finally configured in 2003. Brian Sykes wrote a book called The 7 Daughters of Eve in 2001, where he described 7 characteristic mutations of the mitochondrial genome that could be traced to a specific historic human, at least for modern Europeans. Further haplogroups of mitochondrial DNA have since been found, and Sykes has assigned each with a capital letter taken from a woman's name. Some examples are Ursula, Zena, Helena, Velda, Tara, Katrin, Jasmine, and some 29 in all so far, with 4 Native American, 7 Japanese and 12 African haplogroups. I think it would benefit a child to have a named reference to their mother's genealogy to help consolidate their identity, especially if we go on to use our genetic code to prevent identity theft. Perhaps to begin with a matronymic that references the mitochondrial DNA, because mitochondrial DNA only comes from the mother. Since the structure of the family, certainly in Western culture, is changing, and identity and connectedness is vitally important to individuals, and there is a simple test now available that uses a swab to collect cells from the inner cheek that can check the paternity of a person. But how would a system of naming that recognised both the father and the mother, their genealogical lines, work? I'm going to have a look at that in part 3. Thanks for watching my vlog. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts, so please do post them below. If you would like to watch part 3 on where the fixing of our identity might be going, please subscribe so you can get a notification of when that's going to be posted. So until then, bye for now.